So when we talk about getting tough on crime, what does that actually mean to you? Is it just, stricter sentences? Or is it something deeper? Welcome to the deep dive. We like to really get into complex topics, look at them from different angles, try and make sense of them. And today, we're diving into realist theories of crime. We've got some great stuff here from a sociology podcast focused on realism, getting tough on a crime, and its causes. It's quite revealing.
It really is. And the first thing that jumps out, I think, is that realism isn't just one thing. You've actually got these two, well, almost opposing camps within realism. They both agree crime is a serious issue needing practical answers, but how they see it and what they propose, very different paths.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Because realism sounds like it should be, singular.
Yeah.
Straightforward. So let's dig into the first one then. Right realism, often linked with new right or neoconservative politics. And what's notable straight away is what they don't really focus on. They tend to steer clear of the big sociological causes, like poverty or inequality as the main explanation.
Right. They're looking elsewhere for the primary drivers.
Exactly. They pinpoint three core causes. First up, biological differences. Now, this is pretty controversial. You have thinkers like Herrnstein and Murray suggesting some people might just be, biologically predisposed, maybe lower intelligence, things like that, making them more likely to offend.
A very deterministic view in some ways.
Then second, they talk about inadequate socialization. The idea here is that effective socialization, especially in, the traditional nuclear family, is key. They argue that its decline and the rise of single-parent families has helped create this underclass lacking proper social control, lacking the right values, essentially.
Yeah, the emphasis is very much on the family unit as the primary agent of control.
And the third one is rational choice theory. Clark is a key name here. This basically says, look, people aren't just pushed into crime, they choose it. They weigh up the pros and cons.
Cost-benefit analysis, basically. Is it worth the risk?
So if crime is a rational choice or happens because of poor social control,
then the solution seems obvious to them. You have to increase the costs. Make the potential punishment outweigh any perceived benefit. Deterrence is the name of the game.
Which leads directly to policies like zero-tolerance policing. You see this pop up quite a bit.
Absolutely. And the related broken windows theory from Wilson Kelling.
Right. Explain that one a bit.
Well, the core idea is that visible signs of decay, like a literal broken window or graffiti litter if they're left unchecked, they send out a signal that nobody cares, that social controls are weak. And that, they argue, creates an environment where more serious crime can take root and flourish.
So the thinking is, clamp down hard on the minor stuff.
And you prevent the major stuff from happening. You maintain that perception of order.
It's quite an immediate, visible approach.
It is. And, this raises a question. How might these ideas actually play out in communities? Think about the kind of policing you might see, the interactions day to day. It would feel quite distinct.
Yeah, definitely paints a picture. Okay, so that's right, realism. Now let's shift gears. Let's look at the other side of this realist coin, left realism.
Right. Key figures here would be people like Leah and Young.
And they share the concern about rising crime, absolutely. They weren't ignoring it, but they were critical of, a couple of groups. They criticized some Marxists for almost like romanticizing criminals as revolutionaries.
Seeing them as victims of capitalism fighting back.
Yeah, but they were also really critical of the right realists. They saw their approach as too harsh, too focused on control, potentially authoritarian.
They wanted a different kind of realism.
Exactly. And crucially, they're reformists, not revolutionaries. They aim to work within the system to make society fairer and believe that's the way to tackle crime effectively.
So less about overthrowing capitalism, more about fixing its sharp edges.
Pretty much. And they also identify three main causes, but they're quite different. First is relative deprivation.
Okay, so this isn't just about being poor in an absolute sense.
No, exactly. It's about feeling deprived compared to others, or compared to what you expect. Think about today's society. Super individualistic, consumer-driven.
Advertising everywhere, showing lifestyles most people can't attain.
Right. And that gap, that feeling of, I deserve that too, but I can't get it legitimately, can breed resentment. And for some, crime becomes a way to get those things.
That makes sense. It's the feeling of inequality, the perceived unfairness.
Then you have marginalization. This is about groups feeling powerless, pushed to the edges of society with no real stake or voice.
Like young people in deprived areas, maybe.
Right.
Lacking job prospects, feeling ignored by politicians.
Precisely. And when you feel like you have no legitimate way to achieve goals or make your voice heard, that frustration can spill out, sometimes as violence or antisocial behavior.
A lack of constructive outlets.
And third, subculture. They see subcultures forming as a kind of collective solution or response to that shared experience of relative deprivation and marginalization.
So groups of people coming together to cope.
Yeah. But the form that takes can vary. Some subcultures might, unfortunately, turn to crime as their solution. But others, think about religious subcultures, for example.
They might offer conformity, mutual support, different ways of coping that are definitely not criminal.
Exactly. It's not an automatic path to crime.
So if you put all that together, relative deprivation, marginalization, subcultural responses,
Yeah.
it leads left realists to a very different conclusion about what needs to be done. It brings us to their core idea. You need to be tough on crime and tough on the causes of crime. You can't separate the two.
Right. Tough on crime and tough on the causes of crime. That phrase really captures it, doesn't it? It's not just about locking people up after the fact.
It's about prevention, about tackling the roots.
So how does that translate into policy then? What do they actually suggest?
Well, it's twofold, reflecting that slogan. On the one hand, yes, improve policing, but not through zero tolerance necessarily. More about building trust. Legitimacy, better relationships between police and the communities they serve so people feel more willing to cooperate, to report crime, democratic control over policing, accountability.
Okay, so improving the way policing is done.
And then, crucially, tackling those underlying causes, addressing inequality.
So social policy becomes crime policy.
Absolutely. Investing in deprived communities, improving education, creating real job opportunities, reducing that sense of relative deprivation and marginalization, trying to give people a real stake in society.
When you think about it, implementing those kinds of policies, it would feel really different on the ground, wouldn't it, compared to the right realist approach?
Completely different atmosphere, different priorities.
So, summing up, we've got these two realist camps, right? Realism, focusing hard on individual choice, control, making crime not pay.
Deterrence and order.
And left realism, digging into social inequality, marginalization, arguing that we need to fix the societal conditions that breed crime.
Addressing the root causes alongside the symptoms.
But despite those, well, pretty fundamental differences in perspective,
They do share that core belief. Crime is a real, serious problem that needs practical answers, not just abstract theories. They both want solutions that work in the real world.
yeah, that common ground is important.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Thinking about these two very different ways of being realist about crime, how does knowing about them change how you might look at, say, news reports about crime, or even just conversations in your own community about safety, about what should be done? It kind of forces you to think about the assumptions behind the proposed solutions, doesn't it?
It really does. Something to definitely mull over. We hope this deep dive has given you some food for thought on these contrasting yet influential theories. Keep exploring, keep questioning. Join us next time for another deep dive.